Hello everybody, this is Miranda the Hybrid and welcome to Tutorial Tuesday. Now, today we have a subject that basically everybody's requested it 10 million times. We're going over anatomy. Now, anatomy is a bit of a mixed bag because there's so many different parts that go to it. So I'm going to try breaking it down in a way that makes sense. First, we're going to go over the skeleton from front and from the side. And then we're going to go over the muscle groups that go over it, and then the bending groups. Because, you know, it's one thing to just draw the muscles. It's another thing to know where the joints bend. Also, welcome everybody who's new to the channel. There are like 4,000 new people here, so I hope I can help. Again, if you ever have questions or you want to request a tutorial, you can either request it down in the comments, or you can join my Discord channel, which is also linked down below, so you can interact with me directly, so you can chat with other artists. It's literally open to any artist of any medium and any skill and any age. We do not discriminate in the PIRANTINA server. Now that that's done, let's get to it. This will probably be one of the longer tutorials because, I mean, anatomy. That's a big thing to go over. That's a lot of stuff. I'm seriously trying to condense it down into the most informationally dense presentation I can, but still, there's a lot of stuff that goes into anatomy, and I have like a million different tips for drawing people. Today we're just going to focus on proportions and how the body is put together more than anything. So let's get to it. Whoop. Okay, so let us begin. You wouldn't be going anywhere without a skeleton. Now, I'm not going to make you guys learn every single part of the skeleton, because that would be ridiculous. I mean, you should know where some of the big bones are, like, I don't know, this buddy here, that's the collarbone. This is the humerus. You got your radius and your ulna, and this is what lets you twist your wrist back and forth. And then, of course, I actually have a tutorial on the hand. I will link it in the very end of the video, because I'm not going to explain the hand in the anatomy tutorial because it's just its own thing. And then you got your big boy here, your femur. Apparently breaking one of these is extremely painful. And then you got your tibia and your fibia, which is kind of like a fused version of the radius and ulna. And then you got your feetsies, pelvis, and of course, you know, your rib cage. This solid big boy in the middle is your sternum that connects everything. You got your tailbone, which really hurts if you break it, your shoulder blades, your skull boy. And then again, and this thing over here, that's called the patella. The patella is your kneecap, and you can wiggle it back and forth because it's not really connected aside from some cartilage. And of course, you got the bum area. And yeah, your spine. Now, knowing how everything looks and being able to illustrate a skeleton is all and well, but you really don't need to know how to illustrate the skeleton unless you have a character that is literally a skeleton. In that case, good luck, this is a pain in the butt. But for now, we're going to be jumping to the groups that make your character move. The important thing to know is that there are solid groups and there are bend groups. Now, what are these two buddies? Your bend groups are just your joints, and your major joints at that. Now, this is your shoulder joint, obviously, and it gives you movement like this, and it can also rotate in that direction. You have your elbow joint, which gives you movement like that, and your elbow actually does not move like this. What lets you do that are your radius and ulna, which gives you movement like this and like this. And your wrist over here is extremely flexible. It can go up, it can go side to side. So you need to memorize your bend points for your character, because some people will give the character noodle arms, like instead of drawing, you know, here, this is just like what a head would be, and this is like bicep, and it'd be like, oh yeah, I'm so muscular, look at me flex. Somebody might go like, oh god, where are my joints? So many different joints. Here, and they get it messed up. It's important to know that this over here, your elbow, one bend point, going that way. Wrist, another bend point, going this way. Shoulder, another bend point, allows it to lift up, like that. Memorizing your bend points is extremely important. And that's what I want you guys to think about it. And I do not want you to memorize an entire frickin' skeletal system and a muscular system. I do want you to memorize where it bends and the proportions that go therein. So you got your shoulder, you got your elbow. What about your spine? The spines are goofy. The reason that, if we look at our solid groups, the reason I don't have like this area over here all colored in is because your spine bends. So this is actually part of the bend group. What I want you to think of the spine instead of is a line with a bunch of intersections. So when you pull your head backwards, the line goes like this. And if you pushed your head forwards, the line would go more like this. Same thing with the more, I don't know, this is like the lumbar area of the spine. It goes like this. And so if your character is arcing backwards, think of it like that. And if they're bending forwards, think of it like that. So these are still bend points, but they're too small to be included in the solid area. So think of them just as very long, kind of bendy sticks with little nubs on them. The other bend groups we have are the hips, which can rotate forwards, backwards, and also upwards and inwards. We have the knees, which can only kind of move forwards like this. Your hips also allow this sort of movement. And there's a mild amount of twisting movement here with the tibia and fibula, but a lot of the twisting movement comes from the wrist and the hip, not around here. Because if you think about it, if your knee could move this way and this way, we would have a lot less stability when we walked. So the knee mostly moves like this, and then your twisting motion like this and here comes from these two joints. And of course your footsies can move up, down, this can move this way, and then they have the side to side movement. And of course the head can go all over the place. The head's extremely flexible. Now to make this a bit more clear, I'm going to show the solid groups again. So these purple groups are connected to the solid groups and move them around. If you look at this, this looks suspiciously like those little mannequins you can buy at art stores, and that's because they're set up to move just like the body. Of course, the mannequins have a solid ball here instead of a bunch of guts, because this is squishy. This part of your body here, that's all squishy. And the mannequins are made out of wood, so they can't show it. But say your character decides to loosen their posture. Their belly's going to go out. Or when you have somebody reaching down for something, like this, their belly goes like that. Or if they are arcing backwards a lot, as if they're, stretching or something, so they're getting that big old stretch. Gonna stretch. They're gonna be stretching their stomach and their guts up, and then their rib cage will pop out like this. So this entire area inside here and over here is very flexible. That's why I don't want to put it in orange. It's a flexing group, kind of like our purple bend groups here, but it's elastic and it changes because it's literally your guts. It's a bunch of muscle, fat, and tissue. It's not going to be solid like the muscle area, and it's not going to be rotatey-bendy like your joints. It is literally a giant blob of flesh that has to move around your ribs, your hips, everything. So we got our skeleton, we got our bend groups, we got our solid groups. You're starting to understand how your body wants to move. Now what I want to do is jump over to the muscle groups, because muscles are obviously important to the appearance of your character. Let's go with the muscle boys, and this looks horribly confusing. Let's turn this off. Now this is again one of the situations where it's like, oh my god, that's a lot of detail. And I do not want you to have to memorize all of this. Unless you were going to be a biomedical artist, literally drawing every single tiny little muscle in here, you really don't need to know what the names are, and you don't really need to draw every single tiny thing, unless your character's like the Hulk or something and you have to show every tiny fiber of his body. Really, you don't need to memorize all of these. What I do need you to memorize are the general muscle groups, and right now we're looking at the male anatomy. I will make another video on male versus female anatomy, but that's not for today. Our general muscle groups. We have the deltoids, the shoulder muscles. Then we have the biceps coming over here, and the reason they're called biceps is actually because they're split into two different muscle groups. We have the pectorals, the big chest muscles. We have the quadriceps, which are these big boys on front. These are your quads. We have the glutes, also known as the butt. The hamstring, and I forget what the names of these are, but again, we're not here to learn anatomy, we are here to learn how to draw anatomy. We have the calves, right in here, and notice how I slanted it downwards. That's because the calves have a downward slant to them as the muscle groups connect them to themselves. And then we come to the back. The back is a pain in the butt to draw, so I might literally make another video about drawing just the back. The big muscle group that extends all the way from the top of your neck to your mid-back is called the trapezius. And you have the latissimus dorsi, also called the lats. And your abdominals and your rib muscles in here which when you lift your arms up, start stitching back and forth with your latissimus dorsi. They kind of go in a French braid pattern. If you see guys who wrestle and they're stretching in a particular way or flexing, you're going to see these little boys rippling all over the place. And then you have your triceps back here, and I believe they're called triceps because they're split into 3 parts. See, biceps 2, triceps 3. You have your forearm muscles, which are ridiculously complicated. And that's about it as a quick memorization goes. What we're going to do now is learn the basic shapes of all these muscles. I do not want you to have to look at this and say, wow, I'm going to have to memorize all of this. No, you do not. You are going to be memorizing the general group shapes. First, I actually want to concentrate on the neck. You see these muscles coming here, the neck muscles? One right there. And then you have the trapezius back here coming down from it. And you're going to have the collarbone coming upwards like this. Bam, your first shape. So let's look at what that's like from the side. You have your throat, and that's where the Adam's apple would be. And then you have these neck muscles coming here and here. Now this one connects right under the jaw, and then it kind of goes up to the ear. And this one connects and kind of slides right along your trapezius. So first, those are the ones I want you to pay attention to. Sometimes if the guy is really muscular, he's going to have some, lines coming up over this way, and that's from these guys in here. So we got our trapezius, and we got the collarbone coming this way. And now pay attention to your deltoids. Deltoids are over here. So these are the already beginning areas. You got your neck area, which involves this triangle shape, and then these other triangles coming in between it. And you got your shoulder caps, the deltoids. Now let's pay attention to the pecs. The pecs are kind of like a weird shape. I can't really describe it. Essentially what's happening is they are pulling this way. They're fanning in from that area and pulling into a connection point right up there. What that looks like, and that's also why some guys have those weird lines if they're like super duper muscular. That's why weird lines coming across. It's just the different pieces of the pectoral. You got your pectoral, the booby muscle, running over there, and one over there. And then the bicep over here sneaks in between these, just like that. 1, 2. It kind of just slides from underneath the pec and underneath the deltoid, then comes out. It's flanked on both sides by your arm muscles, so they kind of come and gently wrap away from it. Think of it as a chain. Here's your first chain link over here, right? And you have one chain link coming down over here. And now you have another chain link, a longer one, coming from there. See? Boom, boom, boom. 3 pieces to your chain link. And then, of course, you have your hand and everything. And don't worry about the hands. I have another tutorial for the hands. Now, about your abs. Abs can be drawn a bunch of different ways. What I want you to think of, though, when you're drawing the front of the body, is think of the back. You have your latissimus dorsi coming in just like this, right? So you're going to have whoop like that. Just that shape. Remember that you have that shape right there. And kind of remember your rib cage is also right about there. So you have this general shape coming in. Just like that. And then you can draw on your abs. Don't draw like 50 million abs. That would be bad. But you can, the abs are just, a set. There's actually one up on top of the rib cage itself, and then you have your 6-pack forming underneath of it. The 6-pack does not start up here. The 6-pack starts in this area, just like that. And then you have the one on top of your rib cage all the way up there. And then you have, as one of my old gym instructors called it, the penis pointers, because these are just big muscles right above the hip area that pop out and come downwards. You have your crotch area, and you have some other small muscles in here, but those are really hard to make pop out unless you're super duper muscular. And now you have your legs. Now what I want you to do is create a knee box right here and right here. What you're going to have is a muscle coming up this way, and it comes outwards. Muscle coming up like that. You're going to have a little strong one. See that little shape down here? So strong, 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 strong. And it wraps outwards like this. And then you have the gooey bunchies of muscle in there. Those are small and kind of mushy sometimes, especially on women. And then you have a kind of other muscle over here. It can get big, but not as big as this one and this one. And then from the front, there really isn't that much definition in the muscles. To get more definition into the muscles, the next group you should memorize is from the side, because we just went over the front. From the side, you have your pec, that's one of the ones you want to memorize, coming this way, and it sneaks down below your deltoid. And now, since from this position, your chain looks like this, and then you're going to have your forearm come like that. So here's your thin part of the deltoid, and then the big bomph. Over here's the bicep, over here's the tricep, and then it goes thin again. So bicep, tricep. And then back here you have some of your lats and some of your more complicated muscles, which are literally a pain in the butt. I don't know if we're even going to be going over the back muscles in this video aside from general things, because the back is really just hugely annoying. So you got your rib cage, remember that shape over there. You got your your penis pointers. And then you have your crisscross of muscles in here. You can literally just go like this if you want to be lazy. Remember, this muscle's wrapping in this way. You can even draw arrows to help yourself. And then you have your collarbone coming across and separating all these top muscles from all the shoulder and chest muscles. The next thing you got is your butt. It comes in sharply and cuts off. You can even make an arrow pointing inwards. Just like that. And then you can kind of ignore, there is this giant ligament running down and connecting to the outside of your knee, but kind of ignore that for now, because the one you really want to pay attention to is your quad. Coming down and bump, remember to put your knee box there. So quad here, quad there, just like that. And this area right over here is what this thing is. And then from the back, you have all these muscles, which are your hamstrings. And this all kind of comes down together and connects in a knot of muscle and ligaments right there. And then from there, you got your calf, which goes like that. And again, push out, then come in. This is pretty straight right here. There's a bunch of little complicated muscles running down the side, which will generally just shade them very lightly as they go downwards. And then you can just shade like that. And then you have the foot, which is, maybe we'll do a video on feet since I already did a video on hands. The foot's another bit of a painful bit. And then from the back, we got the butt. That's our muscle group right there, butt and butt. And now let's start working on the back. Let's do a quick overview of the back since it's such a pain in the butt and I don't want to leave you guys just alone. So your spine goes down, right? Your trapezius comes all the way out and then cuts sharply inwards. You got a bunch of muscle over here. You got your deltoids, which cut straight up like that. You got your triceps, and remember your elbows over here. This right here, this thing, that's a ligament. That's not muscle. And here's your triceps. 1, 2, 3. 3 pieces of muscle. And then, of course, all your crazy forearm muscles, which we're not going to go over because there are too many of them. Then you have your lats. And the way I like drawing lats is cutting them in like this, and then having the hip and everything on the outside. So you got your lats coming like this. And then you will have a sharp line over here, because that's where the muscle is connecting to the ligaments near the spine. And of course from the back we got that, and on the back there's actually a little, like, I don't know, it's like an upwards arrow where the back of your knee is. So you don't need to make anything bulge out of there, just a little whoop like that, and then cut in for your calves like that. See that? Almost like a sideways butt cheek down there. And that muscle comes upwards, and then there's a little bit of shading over there. And then swoop down inwards, even sharper than where the outside of your foot is. Put your heel there, and then you can use the extra area on the sides, because that's where your ankle bones are, and then you widen it out, because this over here is a bunch of tendons and muscles and ligaments that leads down to the Achilles tendon, and then your heel, and then your foot. And you can kind of add a few of these muscles back here, but unless you are uber duper muscular, these are not going to pop out that much, so don't worry about them. And that is generally the back. So this is the simplified version of your muscles. Yes, we could go crazy, but this is the simple version. Now, one thing I want you to pay attention to, look how the character from the side doesn't look stiff. There's a specific reason for that, and I'll go over it maybe in another video, but it's called cadence of curve. And what I mean by cadence of curve is this. You could technically draw him bam, 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 muscle, muscle, muscle like this, and then put a huge muscle here and muscles over here, and then make this pop out and this pop out, but then he looks like a cartoon figure and he's not very visually pleasing. Cadence of curve is when you have one curve coming down this way, and another one starts it kind of in its middle and comes down this way, and the other one starts where the first curve went and comes down this way. This is called cadence of curve, and you can find it everywhere in nature, especially in anatomy. Where does it apply here? You got his chest coming out this way, and then this part of his body angling and cutting in hard that way. See? That's one of our curves. 1, 2. And now you have this one starting in here and coming down really sharp for his quadriceps. And then you have this from the calf starting over here. So naturally, our body has a cadence of curve, and then it even continues because the head comes up like that. Naturally, our body has this swooshy line going down it if you're really muscular. And if you manage to accentuate that in your drawing will naturally look more fluid and less stiff. Now, what about muscle tension? Let's do some sketches. When your arm is just sitting latently, you got your, chest muscle over here, deltoids, biceps coming down like that. This isn't popping out that much because it's not activated. What your bicep does, let's sketch the rest of this in just so you guys have some reference. Oh no, muscles. You got this coming here. Hips. Okay, yeah, you guys see what part of the anatomy we're looking at right now. We're fine. So when you need to, the next step to getting a little bit better with your anatomy is making sure you know what muscles activate what areas. And for this, you need to kind of understand how muscles work. So if we're looking at this guy's body, you got a bone coming down here and a bone over here, right? And then all your crazy bones in here. And his muscles are laying latently. When he lifts up his arm and flexes it, this is what happens. His deltoid is bunching up really tight because a deltoid relaxed looks like this. And imagine the muscles are just like, like that. When it flexes, the tiny muscles, which look like this, these are what muscle fibers look like, by the way, they get electrically charged and they kind of freak out and puff up and tighten together like that, which means the entire muscle tightens like that. It's all pulled together. And when the muscle tightens, it's connected to with ligaments to the bone, remember? That means it tightens, which means it shortens, and it pulls the entire arm that way. So you're looking at this muscle, this deltoid, was kind of like that before, and now it's like this, which means it is shortened and pulled the arm up. This bicep used to be nice and long like this, and now it's like BAM! And it's pulled the arm that way, because the bicep connects kind of in here. And now these little things too, because let's just imagine he's doing this with his hand. In his arm, his forearm muscles used to be nice and long, and here's where his hand would have been, right? Thumb. That's just kind of woofing a hand here. Hand used to be like that, right? Now that he's flexing downwards, these forearm muscles right over here, especially on the inside, have suddenly gone from being nice and long to being really tight. So you're getting this tension in here. You're getting this bunching up, you're getting this bunching up, and you're getting this bunching up. Which means that the muscles on the bottom side are relaxed. Because if these muscles down here weren't relaxed, they would be pulling back down this way, and you'd have balance tension. Some people actually use balance tension as exercise, but just in an idea where this guy's flexing, nothing's happening to these muscles down here. They are relaxed. But that leads to another concept of drawing anatomy. When you have a bunch of things happening on one side, that means naturally everything on the other side's going to be relaxed. See? Nice and smooth, nice and flat, and then bam, 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 like that. So always remember, on the opposite side, it's going to look relaxed. Let's draw another character that does this. Now here I'm going to use a line of action, whoomp, like that, to create some character. We're going to put their head down here, arm. I don't know what they're going to be doing. But here we have their leg. Other shoulder. And look, the pectoral is stretching upwards. This pectoral over here, it is not activated whatsoever because all the back muscles and all the muscles in here are reaching outwards like that. Now this side in here is going to be all crunched up because that side's stretching, which means automatically, just like the spine, imagine the body is just like your spine. These parts out here, wide spaces. These parts in here, small spaces, which means you're going to get folds of flesh on the inside. And it's going to be a nice strong crease over there to show the perspective of how that muscle is folding. And bang, bang, just like that. So nice elongated line right out here, and now suddenly bang, bang, bang. All these scrunched lines in here. Exact same thing as the muscle, except now we applied it to an entire body. The last thing I want to talk about is proportion. I know it's a little bit late in the game, but I honestly don't take proportion very seriously. And the reason I don't take proportion seriously is because everybody has different body shapes and sizes and anatomy. Like, say you were drawing somebody with dwarfism. Obviously, their proportions are going to be a lot different. And the average human is a stupid concept, because some boy in high school who's going on 7 feet is not going to have the general, 7 heads to body proportion. That is a very formulaic and not true to real life formula. Generally, what you want to look at is the fact that your hips will come here, and that's going to be half of your body length up to the top of your head. So if you look at the hips, or sometimes the bottom of the butt, that's your split in half module. And generally, your arms are going to reach a little bit lower than your butt cheeks. And then your legs also get split in half to where your feet are. Try using those proportions instead of the 7 heads thing. If we did want to do the nerdy 7 heads thing, which I seriously don't think, I think it's archaic, I think it's too formulaic. If we split this in half right here, we're going to look at the top of the head, split this in half, split this in half, split this in half. Oh, wow. For some reason, this looks like 1/8 instead of 1/7. What? And the funny thing is, I traced this skeleton from a medical book. So this came from an actual human being that existed, and they only had a 1/8 proportion instead of 1/7. So this really honestly shows that the 1/7 head thing is absolute BS. But try to remember this. If you're trying to draw realism, your head will be more like 1/8 of your body when it comes to vertical height. And when it comes to width, again, there's so many different kind of faces, and different ethnicities have different facial shapes. For instance, I'm Czech and I have a frickin' huge wide face. But including the muscles, you're probably looking at 1/3 of the width of your body. From the shoulders at least. This is a male skeleton, for instance. The male skeleton has wider shoulders than it does hips. A female skeleton would be kind of opposite. Her hips are probably going to be more in line with her shoulders, or even a bit wider. So again, they're really unfortunate. I know you guys want a formula to make things easier, but there really isn't that much of a formula. The best thing you can do... reference. Did I write that correctly? R-E-F-E-R-E-N-C-E. Yeah. Reference. If you're having difficulty with proportions, look at another human being. In fact, look at a human being who looks like the character you want to draw. That is literally the best way you can get the proportions right, is using reference. I know lots of people are like, oh, I don't want to use reference, it's not going to make me a superior artist. There is no such thing as a superior artist. The Renaissance painters used reference for literally everything. Like frickin' Da Vinci looked at people all day and drew them. Same thing with Michelangelo. So yeah, use your frickin' reference. It'll help you so much. So that is the very bare basics of anatomy. It's complicated. You need to simplify it. Hopefully what I did helped you simplify it a little bit. And like I said like a million times at the back of that video, use reference. It will literally help you so much. I was able to help simplify the skeleton and the muscular systems and the bend points, but really, taking the time to learn how to do it and taking the time to actually memorize it is the most important, and repetitive practice. One particular class we had in drawing for animation, which was a class in my 2nd year of school, literally 6 hours once a week, sitting down, drawing naked people at different angles. It was a nude figure class. And that, more than almost anything, helped me with my proportions. Practicing half a year, 6 hours a week. And then having homework to also practice for like 6 hours a week. Practice, repetition. That's all it is. Now, next video for the week, I'm going to be talking about social media and self-worth. This one's more going to be me just yelling at the camera telling you to love yourself, but it's still very important. And then this Art Block Friday, the 22nd, live stream I do at 6 p.m. Eastern. Our subject word is going to be cold. So whatever you want to draw for cold, you can. I already have an idea. Next tutorial Tuesday, we are going to be doing the basics of rendering in black and white, because that's been requested a few times. And then on the 2nd, advanced tricks for drawing characters and art in general, which I'm not going to tell you what they are. You're going to have to wait. As per usual, if you have any extra questions or requests for tutorials, you can either ask it down below in the comments, or you can just join the Discord server, which has a bunch of different channels for art, critiques, and also one specifically just for requesting YouTube videos. The link is also down below. If this kind of content helps you, please give me a subscribe. And as per usual, drink your water, get your sleep, believe in yourself, and follow your dreams. I will see you this Thursday. Bye-bye.